Hello and welcome to part 3 or video 3 of me sharing about my scapholunate ligament reconstruction surgery and the recovery from that. So last video I had a cast on, and it was like a hard cast, and they said that they couldn't give me a waterproof cast because of the incision. They didn't want it getting wet, didn't want to do anything that would encourage infection. And I was initially told that I would have one cast on for 4 weeks, and then another cast for another 4 weeks, and then would have surgery at 10 weeks to remove the pins. And I was just going to have a cast, I guess like a soft splint for the first 10 days to 2 weeks, right immediately after surgery, and then I would have the cast for that last 8 weeks. This, however, is not a cast. As you can see, it's not a hard cast. This is an ACE bandage around, it's actually plexiglass or fiberglass strip that goes along here and then down like this and down each side. So I can actually push in here, and I can feel the edge of the fiberglass, and I can push in here where the edges of my pins are like poking through the top of my skin, and it's rather uncomfortable. The reason they told me that they did this instead of another hard cast was because the hard cast is much more difficult to take off in surgery, and this is going to come off in surgery tomorrow, Lord willing, and which will be exactly 10 weeks after my surgery. My surgery was November 7th, and then I got this on. They took off the hard cast and put this on December 17th. So I actually had zero swelling, and the cast was pretty loose. I could like jiggle it back and forth. And then they took that off, and when they did, they gave me time in the room, and they're like, the gentleman that took off the cast told me, you can go ahead and wash it, do whatever. The other lady will be in and take you back to have an x-ray. So I like ran over to the sink, and I started rubbing very gently. There was like a little bit of a scab over the scar, and I was like just kind of like rubbing it and using hot water, and it felt really good. And the lady came in while I was doing that, and so I grabbed a paper towel and like walked away dripping to the x-ray machine, and was just like drying it up. And when she brought me back to the room, I was like, okay, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be waiting for the next person. I feel like every time I'm in the hospital, I am sitting in one location waiting for a long time, then sitting in another location waiting for another long time. So I'm going to make the most of this. And I like went over there, and I started just like scratching and like scraping off layers of dead skin, like on every side of basically everything all of my skin here that you don't see. It's like at least 2 to 3 layers of really dead, disgusting skin that I was just like scraping off. So then the next person that came in was like, "You're still watching that?" And I was like, "Yeah, it feels really good." And I had just like finished getting all of the dead skin off. So anyway, that is a reality of wearing a cast. And then they put this on, and like I said, there was no swelling, and the cast was actually pretty loose when they initially, by the time they had taken off the hard cast. This, as you can see, has gotten pretty puffy. Usually the majority of the swelling that you're able to see is right here on top of the knuckles. And I'm trying to give you a good angle. I don't know what the best angle for this camera is to see that, but it's definitely swollen again. And it has been ever since they put this on, ever since they took the cast off and put this on. I'm not entirely sure why that is. I'm not sure if it's just maybe because my muscles have atrophied so much that the pins are poking more through the surface and it's irritating and I can feel it. Maybe my hand's not in the exact right position. I will say for the past 2 to 3 weeks, I have been able to actually feel the pins in my wrist much more than I've known that they're in there, but I've not been able to tell. And I think that maybe part of that is like the middle of my wrist where the pain was coming from like where the ligament was, that was the majority of the pain. Right now, I don't feel that at all. I haven't felt pain from that area for a long time, for several weeks. And the pins that are going through my wrist now, they are like in an X. I don't know exactly like how they are. I want to say it's like this. It kind of feels like this. They are, I can feel them. I can feel just randomly, I might like turn my hand. There was one week especially that if I turn my hand or my arm at all like this, I would just like feel them very, very sharply, and because they're going through the bone too, and I would feel like all of it, and it was just like, oh, and I would just like cringe and try to stop moving and just like wait for the pain to die down, and then I could go about my life, and it was fine. So that was very uncomfortable, very painful. I considered taking some ibuprofen for that, and just, I mean, it happened just so on and off, and it was like gone almost as fast as it had come, so it didn't really seem worth it to take any medication for that. So anyway, the other thing is I had, it started swelling pretty immediately after I had left the doctor's office once they put this splint back on. And I loosened it because it felt really tight. It wasn't, my hand was like reddish. It wasn't like purple, like where it's like for sure cutting off the circulation, but it definitely was tighter than the cast was. And probably because this is like stretchy material, you know, that as my muscle atrophies, this material shrinks with it. So I just went ahead and loosened it, and I've done that a couple of times. I've probably done that twice since they took off the cast and put this splint on. But the other thing is, I had mentioned to one of the medical professionals that I had interacted with, I don't think it was my doctor, but I had talked with one of them about it and just mentioned that my thumb has had a tingling sensation pretty much for the whole time. They initially told me when I first had the nerve block, if you watch the first video, you know I had a nerve block and I couldn't feel any of my arm. And it was all like tingling as that nerve block was wearing off. So I thought that all the tingling was going to go away. But when I talked to them this last time, I asked them about that tingling, and I just said, hey, you know, like, I have feeling back, I can feel all my fingers, but my pinky is like a little tingly, but my thumb has been tingling like pretty much the whole time consistently. And he said, he told me that it's like where the pin is right below my thumb is like close to a bunch of nerves. And so that probably is the reason for that. The pins are actually affecting that. And I will say it's still pretty tingly, but it's much less tingly than it has been. I would say it's probably over the last 2 weeks been not noticeable. It's not noticeable unless I'm like feeling it. When I feel it, I can feel that it's a little bit tingly. So I'm grateful for that, because that was pretty, it was distracting. It wasn't painful, but it was like distracting, and I wondered if something was wrong with it or what was going on exactly. Anyway, I don't think that I have anything else to update with regards to that. I've been able to keep moving it. This is a little bit, this splint is a little bit higher than the cast was. The cast was like down here, and I could do a little bit more movement and stuff. Just with, I guess I would add, just with the ability to feel the pins in it more. I've been, because it's like a really sharp pain that's like really quick, really strong, and then goes away. I've noticed myself to be more like clenched with it, like, I guess like on edge. Definitely when I take off my coat, I can't like just grab it and pull it off, because like this motion of like grabbing this and like pushing up on the splint, I feel it right here where the pins are at the edge of my skin and it hurts. So if I were just like to make a fist and hang on to my cast, that's like the best thing, because then the cast or the splint, it won't move up. So I like find myself hanging on to this a lot, whether it's I'm pulling my coat off, usually just let the arm go wrong side out because it hurts way less, or if I'm playing with kids or whatever, I find myself like just like kind of like making a fist and like clenching the edge of my splint here so that it doesn't move up or down at all, because that is uncomfortable. And I'm not exactly sure why. With the cast, it was far more comfortable. It even felt fine to like jiggle back and forth as it was able to, as my muscles atrophied. But anyway, I am very, very, very excited to have the pins removed, Lord willing, tomorrow morning. And I am very happy to have the pins removed tomorrow. I'm excited, and I'm not really nervous at all because I don't care what could go wrong, kind of. I mean, just like the pins have to come out at some point in time, and the sooner they do, the better off I'll be. I did actually ask the nurse, both when I was getting this splint on, when they took off the cast and put this splint on, I asked her about general anesthesia versus local anesthesia. She told me, she gave me the paperwork, and she's like, hey, so, don't eat anything the day up until midnight the day before, just like last time. You'll have to have someone bring you to the surgery center and pick you up from the surgery center, and you'll be going under general anesthesia just like last time. And I was like, Dr. Rush had said that there's a possibility of just doing local anesthesia. He said he didn't know if he was going to do just general anesthesia or just local anesthesia. And is there any possibility you could do just local? And she's like, well, I'll ask. So she left the room and she talked to someone, and she came back and told me no, they would not do just local anesthesia. And when I say just local anesthesia, I don't know what that means. I don't know if it's just like the anesthesia, like that a dentist would just like take a needle and put into your gums before doing something or other. I don't know if it's like just here, if it would include a nerve block where I couldn't feel my whole arm again, but I really don't care. I don't like the feeling of general anesthesia. I don't like the way that my mind is loopy. I don't like the way that I can't think straight, the way that my brain is foggy, the way that I can't go back to work the next day and have my mental capacity in order. So she came back that day when I was in the hospital, and she was like, no, that's not possible. They're not going to do that. So I was like, okay. But I kept thinking about it, and I think like 2 weeks ago, I called his office, and I talked to the doctor's receptionist who I have talked to a lot in the past. And I asked her, I just said, hey, so I'm wondering, because I want to be able to go to work the next day. I don't want to have to arrange travel to get to the hospital, which honestly wouldn't be a problem because I have so many friends in the community in my church that are happy to take me and pick me up from the hospital. But I really didn't want to have to take more than one day off of work. And so I told her that, and I said, and Dr. Rush had said at the very beginning that it would be either local anesthesia or general anesthesia that they would use when they took out my pins, because it'd just be a really quick, he said like 10-15 minute thing. And I'm just wondering if it's at all possible to not do the general anesthesia. Is there any way? So I'm basically appealing to the receptionist. She tells me that she'll talk to Dr. Rush and call me back. She called me back the next day and said yes, that they would do that. So I was super, super happy. I'm hopeful that that is the plan, because even though I got a call last week just like confirming details of my medical history, she didn't have that updated yet. But when I got a call today, the day before the surgery, they did say that I guess this is the biggest difference in the instructions, that I could eat a light breakfast the day of the surgery, as opposed to if I was doing general anesthesia, no food after midnight the night before, which being able to eat breakfast or not doesn't make that much of a difference to me at this point, because I have to show up for surgery at 5:30 a.m. and I mean, I guess maybe I might eat a beef steak or something in the car on the way. But when the receptionist called me back to tell me that the doctor had said that they could do the just the local anesthesia, she did tell me, she basically cautioned me, the doctor said it would hurt more if they don't do the general anesthesia as well. So I have a high pain tolerance, and I don't really care. I don't like being in like an incredible amount of pain. Obviously, that's not ever fun. But I think that it will be worth it, like the day after, if not the day of, just because of my mental ability and the fact that I value that far and above any pain that I could be in. So I will update you all on that. I have watched a couple of YouTube videos of pins being removed, and in a lot of them, I don't know if it's like in third world countries or what exactly the situation is, but in a lot of them, it looks like the patient has not had any anesthesia, and it looks pretty uncomfortable. It does. But even if it's anywhere close to the amount of pain that I've described, where I've said in this video that I can like feel the pins, if it's anywhere close to that, even more than that, I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be fine. I don't know if she was meaning that the pain will be worse like afterwards, or the pain will be worse during the procedure. I don't really know. But anything will be better than not having. Anything will be better than just these pins just staying in here this whole time. So I will update you on anything that I know. I did at one point say, "Oh, I'd like to watch," and this was the first lady I talked about, or the first lady I'd asked about not having general anesthesia, and she was like, "Oh, there's no possibility of that. They'll definitely put up a curtain between you and your wrist so you can't see anything." So I probably won't be able to see it, which is probably fine. I'm not queasy, but I don't want to jerk or move or do anything that would cause any damage or make anything worse. So hopefully the next video will be one of the last, and I will hope to do videos just documenting my recovery progress. For now, this is all I can do. Really, I can squeeze like about that much. I don't really have much of a grip. So, oh, this is a good example. I can't open a hair clip. Ouch. So I can pick it up and I can do stuff with it and I can braid my hair, but I can't open a hair clip. And this has been 9 weeks and 6 days since the day of my surgery. So I will post a video showing you what after the post 10 weeks post pins surgery is like. Thanks for watching.